2020 PCA Fair. For those of you not familiar, PCA is the acronym for Past Commanders Association. So I'm incredibly happy that not only are the D11 members joining us today, but we have quite a few people, quite a few members from throughout the nation that are joining us as well. So they're joining us for some information, some leadership insights, and some good old-fashioned training. So for the D11 members on board, we have a full day of activities. However, before we actually start, I wanted to give you a little overview, if you will, about the PCA organization. So our mission is to share our vast experience and knowledge as past elected officers with the membership of the district through guidance, support, mentorship, and education within the blueprint of the auxiliary manual, while not forgetting the contributions from the past. Our vision statement includes quite a few items, and so let me share some of those with you. The Past Commanders Association supports the district, not only D11, but other districts as well, by enhancing the expertise of its leadership to support the United States Coast Guard. We do so by assisting the district Commodore, and in this instance, our newly elected Commodore Dean McFarren, by advancing programs of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary and the United States Coast Guard. We serve as a resource of experienced officers by giving input to the various flotillas, divisions, and our district board, of course. We also encourage members of the association to actively participate in the auxiliary within their respective divisions and flotillas. We utilize the knowledge and experience of the past division commanders in motivating a continuing interest in the auxiliary. To keep the members of the past Division Commanders Association informed, we ask our members to help with providing current interest of note to members at the district level. And then lastly, we encourage all past division commanders to become members of the Past Division Commanders Association. So during the upcoming district meeting next week, I'll be recruiting members to become members of the PCA. So as we go into our leadership portion of the agenda for today, I don't need to remind everyone that this has been an especially difficult year for us and for everyone else. We usually have this PCA fair in person twice a year, but unfortunately, we're not able to do that. And so our Commodore McFarren tasked us, the staff of the PCA, to come up with a virtual program that would be interesting and meaningful and have an impact. And so we got together as a team. The team consisted of myself, the vice president of the PCA, Paul Custance, Michelle Thompson, Michael Thompson, past president Rod Collins, and then also her very own Bryce Linen, who is instrumental in making this happen today with YouTube links and so forth. So COVID has gotten in the way of how the auxiliary serves. I know here in D11, I also know as part of my role as the COO of the Auxiliary Association, I speak to a lot of members throughout the nation on a weekly basis, and it's been difficult for everyone. So we wanted to do something very special for today, and we wanted to let you know, not only D11, but now nationwide, just how important and how much we appreciate all of you. And so we designed the morning's program to allow us to gain some perspective on leading during very challenging times. And so we assembled leaders that have served during very difficult times, and then those that are currently serving in difficult times. So we're very lucky and very honored to have Admiral Thad Allen, who is he's retired and the former commandant of the Coast Guard. And I'm not going to go into a formal overview of Admiral Allen's background, but what I am going to do is share with you a little bit about how I met him and the impact he has made on me. And I know each of us may have a personal story about how Admiral Allen has impacted us. So I met Admiral Allen while working in Rwanda in 2010. He was not in Rwanda in 2010, but I was. He was in the Gulf of Mexico dealing with acting and serving as the National Incident Commander for the Gulf oil spill. So at 05:30 every morning in Rwanda, in Kigali, I would wake up and watch the news as I was having my coffee. And the second morning I was in country, I turn on the international news, and then there is Admiral Allen serving as the incident commander, talking about this horrific oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. And for those of you who know me, I'm an Italian Catholic, and so I've been genetically bred to worry. And so I started to worry. I didn't hear anything past there's a devastating oil spill in the Gulf. It was personal to me because I have two sisters at the time lived on the Gulf Coast. And so the very first morning I listened for 10 or so minutes, and then the story faded away. But the very next morning and every morning for the next several weeks, I would sign on and I would listen attentively to Admiral Allen talk about what's happening with the Gulf spill, with the oil spill in the Gulf, and so forth. And I learned something as I listened to him back in 2010, not realizing that when I became a member of the Coast Guard Academy Board of Trustees, I would actually meet him in person. And so I was so honored to have that opportunity to meet him in person. But as those weeks went by, when I was 9,000 miles away in Rwanda, he led me to feel that it was going to be okay. That while this is a very difficult period of time that our nation is going through, both from a national security perspective, but also from an environmental perspective, and all the stressors that go along with active duty serving in a very difficult environment, and then the citizens. And so I watched attentively and learned so much about how do we serve and lead in very difficult circumstances. We're going to have an opportunity to meet Admiral Kelly, Rear Admiral Kelly, who is the superintendent of the Coast Guard Academy. I'll share a little bit about him. He's serving as the superintendent, the 42nd superintendent of the Academy during very difficult times. And then we have our very own Commodore McFarren, who is also serving as our leader during these very difficult times. So that's kind of the theme here this morning. How do you lead in very difficult times, and how do we inspire and motivate our members to continue to serve and be at the ready? So as Admiral Allen has since signed on, but I'm going to just give you one more little bit of information about him, and then we'll turn it over to the Admiral. And we refer to him simply as the Admiral. So Admiral Allen is best known and praised for his performance directing the federal response to Hurricane Katrina and Rita in the Gulf region from 05 to 06, and for his role as the National Incident Commander of the Unified Command for the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico in 2010. I have been so honored and so lucky to be in the same room with him to hear about leadership items. He is one of the 3 leaders of the Loy Institute for Leadership at the Coast Guard Academy. And sir, without further ado, thank you so much for taking the time. Most people don't know this, sir, but happy birthday. I understand today is your birthday. So without further ado, sir, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jim. Let me do a sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay. It's an absolute honor and delight to be with you here today and get a chance to talk to you a little bit. As Jim said, these are pretty challenging, troubling times, but that's really nothing new to the Coast Guard, our service, and things we've had to deal with. It's much more complex and broader than it ever has been, but it offers us the opportunity, in my mind, to demonstrate by our behavior and our character the core values of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and the entire Coast Guard team. So I thought this morning I'd just chat a little bit with you about my background, some of the things that I've done that lead me to believe that the extraordinary value that the auxiliary brings to the Coast Guard can be sustained even in a period of the pandemic that we're facing right now. And I just want to reiterate up front the enormous respect that I have for the auxiliary. I've dealt with the auxiliary since I graduated from the Coast Guard Academy, so this has been a 50-year relationship. And I want to thank you all very much for your dedication, your service to the country. Before I start, just let me give you a little background on myself. You won't find this in my official bio, but I spent most of my career on the East Coast. But my father is a retired Chief Petty Officer, and I grew up on the West Coast. I started in grade school in Ketchikan, Alaska, continued in Portland, Oregon, but spent all my formative years actually in the East Bay. My father was stationed at Yerba Buena Island. And then with the captain of the port, folks who were up at Port Chicago supervising explosive loading of ammunition going to Vietnam. My dad was on a maintenance team that basically did repairs to all the lighthouses up and down the coast. He was a damage controlman. So with the exception of St. George Reflight off Crescent City, which is almost unapproachable these days, I've been in every manned and now unmanned light on the Northern California coast. I even spent time with my dad working on East Brothers Light near Richmond. I was on Alcatraz when it was still a prison. Was able to spend a week on the Farallon Islands when it was a manned station with families out there with my father. So I have great love, respect for the coastline out there and the great area of responsibility that you're all part of. So it's really wonderful to be with you today. It's almost like a little bit of a virtual homecoming for me, and it really warms my heart to be able to talk with you today. Regarding what we're dealing with, and I've had a lot of conversations about operations, whether it's in the Coast Guard or not, in the context of the pandemic that we're dealing with. And just last month, I spoke to the California Hospital Association and their leadership that asked me to talk to the ER docs and everybody else that was dealing with this in California. I also did some behind the scenes work with the issue with getting the passengers off the cruise ship last year when the pandemic started. So I know the challenges that California is facing. I know the particular issues in trying to control the health problem, which is done at the county level there. And I know the necessary changes that have been made to ensure the safety of the Coast Guard people that are involved and you yourselves as auxiliarists. And I would just say this, the Coast Guard has been extraordinary through this whole thing. There's been a focus on mission execution, sustaining what we do for the public. And I think moving forward, what we need to do is understand that there's some things that are not going to go back to the way they were. Some things we need to learn how to do moving forward. But overall, what I want to pass on to you is there's one thing you have to keep while all this is going on, and that's your spirit of hope and optimism. And while there are short-term impacts in relation to where you physically can be and what you can do with and for the Coast Guard, we're all learning new skills regarding how to do things virtually. We're becoming much more computer savvy. We're becoming digital natives. We're learning how to do things in ways we didn't do before. I think the goal moving forward is to try and figure out how we can leverage new technology, and as the conditions allow us to be in closer contact, whether it's through vaccines or other things that come along to help us mitigate the impacts of COVID, how the auxiliary can continue to do what they've done for so many years for the Coast Guard. And that's to match your particular expertise with needs that the Coast Guard has. And I would urge you all to look for those areas where there's a particular skill or need and it can be delivered virtually in support of the Coast Guard, figure out ways to do that. And I would even look for novel things to do. You know, there are Coast Guard units and families out there that have been dramatically impacted by what's going on, where you have two members that are both in the service. You have children that are trying to do remote learning, and they're trying to do all of this. And the thing that impacts us all is we never leave the risk environment. You know, it used to be in the old days, you stood watch and you went home and you got some sleep, you're with your family, you got ready for the next day. And you weren't subject to the operational risk of being in a boat or in the air or doing boat safety inspections or whatever it is we do. The challenge for us is today now we never leave the risk environment. So we always have to be mindful of sustaining mission execution, by understanding that we don't do something that would harm ourselves or others, that would diminish the capability of the Coast Guard to be able to do their job. That's a lot to ask of people. It's a lot to ask of junior petty officers and seamen, especially those with families. It's a lot to ask of you folks. I know the familial relationship you have with the Coast Guard. I know, especially for people that are communications watchstanders, that are used to actually getting underway and operating with Coast Guard units. Beyond the value you get as an individual from having served, it's the personal relationships and your ability to work with the Coast Guard members that adds value and meaning to your life and makes you want to be part of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We can't lose this as we try and work through what is ultimately going to be a new situation where we can be together. We can't operate in the same space, and you can't support the Coast Guard. So I'm asking you today to continue that extraordinary dedication you've demonstrated in helping the Coast Guard. And in times of crisis and leadership, what I have found, and this spans my entire career, not just the hurricane and the oil spill, what really delivers the expectations that the American public has for emergency, disaster, crisis, or anything else is the ability for the responders to demonstrate unity of effort, to integrate what they're doing and demonstrate by their actions they're responsive to the needs of the American public. That will necessarily change during the pandemic because of the conditions placed on us on restrictions of movements and our inability to actually be in each other's physical presence from time to time. That doesn't mean that we can't stick with this notion of unity of effort, integrate what we're doing, and look for new ways to connect with each other and support each other. And we're only limited by our imagination and the skills that the auxiliary bring to the table in terms of their personal expertise and the things that they not only enjoy doing, but the Coast Guard can benefit from. In general, as we're looking at the environment we live in right now, we're going to continue to have uncertain circumstances, ambiguous situations, and things that are required. It's going to test our patience and our operating doctrines. The issue that's really confronting the entire country, not just the Coast Guard and the auxiliary, is what I call complexity as a risk aggravator. It used to be there'd be a problem, you'd have a standard operating procedure, you'd do that, you'd execute an operation, there'd be a hot wash-up, there'd be lessons learned, you would tweak the policy and the training, you get on with what you're doing. The problems we're having right now with the complexity of the situations that we face, whether it's COVID, whether it's large-scale natural disasters, whether it's a major oil spill, or even a government shutdown, as we saw 2 years ago, what we're finding is there are situations that are being created where standard operating procedures, standard plans don't seem to apply. Scale of these events, whether it's the size of the number of people that are involved at a geographical scale, and in the case of COVID, it's the entire United States. All of a sudden, we're seeing that existing frameworks for how to think about things and do things are being defeated and don't apply anymore. And the challenge that all of us have to face is how to adapt and change, and then find out what works and keep it. And then if something's not working, have the courage to say, we're going to stop doing that and do something else because it's not the best investment of our time and our resources. And that's best done through collective thinking and having people communicate. Now, you can't be in each other's presence like you used to be, but you certainly can do it virtually. And you can have these discussions and you continue to moving forward. The two things that I focus on in handling a crisis where it becomes so complex that the rules don't seem to apply, what do you do then? And there are two things that I think are completely needed to have competent crisis leadership when you're dealing with an ambiguous situation. The first one is the ability to rapidly learn. I'm a big supporter of lifelong learning and continuing your education. We can't learn enough to be ready for everything that's going to happen. And we should always be in a situation where we want to know more. We want to get better at what we're doing. We want to become better individuals. We want to become better informed. We're never going to be perfect, but we always want to be better. And each time we get better, we want to continue. So the one thing I would urge is take this as an opportunity, not only regarding the technology that you're using, these platforms like Zoom and everything else, but continue to learn and expand and think about what's going on. The second thing that's really important is emotional intelligence. we're living in a time where everybody is under stress, and the ability to understand your own feelings and the ability to empathize with others is critically important, because when you're leading teams or you're part of a team, everybody has to understand that you're in this together. And if you get stuck where you're at the center of the universe and you can't really respond to other people from where they sit, you're not going to be able to effectively become a member of the team and kind of pull everything together. So the other thing I would urge you to do is check on other people, see how they're doing, ask them how they are, understand the stressors they're under, because we're all under stress, and it's okay sometimes to not be okay. But what you need to do is talk about it, empathetically deal with each other, and between the technology, learning new ways to do things, trying to come up with new operating procedures, and what the art of the possible is related to your skill set. If you can do that in a cooperative, empathetic manner with the folks around you, you're going to be a stronger team. And while in the short term, there are going to be restrictions put on your operations, in the long term, you will be more resilient. You'll be able to sustain operations. You'll continue to focus on executing the mission. And ultimately, you'll meet the high standards that you've set for yourself, that the auxiliary holds itself to, and everybody in the Coast Guard needs to understand as we serve the public. Another thing that's really important is, as I said earlier, is to remain hopeful. There's an old saying that nobody can take your honor away from you, but you can give it away. And I've had many conversations over the last year where I've used that same phrase, but I've replaced honor with hope and optimism. Nobody can take your optimism or your hope away, but you can give it away by becoming overcome with what's going on around you, and let emotions defeat what it is you need to do, and make yourself not only useful to yourself, but everybody else. So the other thing I would tell you is, the best thing you can do for yourself and those around you and your teammates is to be optimistic and to be hopeful. The greatest present you can give to yourselves and your families and everybody around you is to demonstrate the optimism and the knowledge that we will get through this. We are sustaining it. We're performing in a manner that we can all be proud of, even though it's not to the level we might want to in terms of physical presence and what we would normally do. But we're still doing incredible, wonderful things. And you all are incredible, wonderful people. And I wish I could be with you all to shake your hands, talk to you about the individual things you have done, especially where in the backyard where I grew up. But it's incredibly important that you maintain your sense of optimism and your sense of hope as you move forward. And when you do that, I think you're going to start to find there are places of continuity and intersection where you're going to find new things that you can do to support people. I was talking to some folks the other day, and there are so many families out there right now that are dealing with remote learning and things that have to be done from the home that are very, very hard. And maybe out in the auxiliary that there are people that have, and we know from the past, there are people with legal and medical backgrounds that have been brought to bear on the Coast Guard with tremendous success, where we align the auxiliary skills with the needs of the Coast Guard. I would ask you to think about what can be done virtually in terms of maybe assisting a family with online learning, using some of the skills and talents that you have that can be delivered virtually through one of these platforms. I think it'll be incredibly useful to the service. And I think you will gain great satisfaction from it, and it'll tide you over in being able to deliver services and be of service to the service and yourself as we wait the outcome of where this is going to go. Jim, we start a little early. I think you mind if I'd be glad to take some questions or respond to any questions you may have for me.
Admiral, we are streaming through YouTube, so we don't have members that have the ability to ask questions. But I do have one for you, sir. So in the scope of where you are able to look out on the horizon, what do you see for our country relative to recovering from the COVID over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months? Over.
Well, I think ultimately, and again, this gets back to being optimistic and hopeful, we have every reason to believe that there'll be a vaccine to be able to address this problem. So it's a question of when, how effectively and efficiently we execute the solution, and then how do we sustain operations until that happens. I do think that no matter how this thing comes out at the end, we're finding out ways to do things that are going to be different than what we've ever done before. The nature of the workplace has changed dramatically in this country. And I'm affiliated with a very, very large corporation, Booz Allen Hamilton. And I see what they do every day and adapting to this. And at the same time, I see what the Coast Guard's doing. And it's very, very clear that in some instances, we may not go back to the same type of work structure and workplace we were at, which may offer more opportunities for people to be able to more adeptly and responsibly take care of their families by being able to be there. Now that's going to have to be linked up with ultimately how we handle education and where the kids go, because in my view, one of the greatest threats we have in the country right now is losing an entire year of robust education for our children. And how do we recover that? And how do we try and close that knowledge gap moving forward, and not let that carry through an entire generation? So there will be an end, but there won't be a new normal. There'll be a different way that we're going to look at the world, because we're going to be different from what we went through. And there are things that we're not going to do anymore because they don't work. And the things that we're going to have to keep doing because they've been demonstrated they can work. And then we're going to have to figure out how we can maintain resiliency in the event we have another event like this. It may not be the same event, but there's always new types of epidemiology problems that we may face out there and everything else. So I think what we need to do is figure out how to make the country more resilient. And that includes the Coast Guard understanding that, and the auxiliary understanding that. So we have to go back to a mode where we're isolated again. How can we have uninterrupted continuity of operations and continue to meet our mission?
So in District 11, and I'm not entirely certain about other districts throughout the nation, but we've gone to phase 2, what we call phase 2 here. We're able to participate with limited operational capabilities with the active duty. But heretofore, our district has been very active with participating with our active duty. And getting back to our operational cadence, and I'm listening to your point about there's going to be a different type of normal. And what advice would you give us as not only D11 auxiliaries, but nationwide in getting back together with our active duty participants? So as an example, I'm the auxiliary unit commander, coordinator for Station San Francisco here at YBI. You mentioned you had been, your dad had been there, and you as well. And so when I enthusiastically call my executive chief there to get updates and see how we can participate, and he has to, and he's Chief Kinsman is loving the auxiliary, but he has to temper his enthusiasm. And so could you talk a little bit about, or maybe give us a little bit of advice about when we get, as we re-enter our relationship with and reinvigorate our relationship with active duty, what's the best way to go about doing that?
I would say offhand, and I'm thinking out loud with you as we talk here. Excuse me. I think it's going to have to be managing. There's going to be kind of a natural tension between patience and innovation and curiosity, and wanting to move forward and try and understand how to do things differently and move on. So between the patience it's going to take to make sure we're doing this safely, we need to hang on. My computer's telling me it's going to restart here. I don't know why that came up. There we go. We need to manage the tension between safety and patience and innovation, curiosity and creativity, and how we can all come together to do this better. And it's going to have to be on both sides where we work together. And the best way that's done is through an open conversation. And when people are saying, I'm not really, things are not okay right now, and these are the concerns I have, we need to just put that on the table and talk about it, even in an operational sense with the chiefs and the officers and the petty officers you're dealing with at the stations. Honest, open, transparent communications, I think, is the key.
Thank you, Admiral. And you've been so incredibly generous with your time, and we did start a little bit early. So I do indeed thank you so much for participating today. And I know just listening to you, I've been quite inspired by your words, and I know I'm getting text messages from people throughout the country who are listening in, and they're feeling very much the same way. So, sir, happy birthday, and thank you so much.
Now, let me, can I steal some thunder with Admiral Kelly here?
Sure.
I hold the Tyler Chair at the Institute for Leadership at the Coast Guard Academy, and I've worked with Admiral Kelly now for several years since he became the superintendent, and I've watched him respond to the challenges associated with COVID-19 and sustaining mission execution at the Academy. In my view, there is no other person we want to have as superintendent of the Coast Guard Academy right now than Bill Kelly. His extraordinary leadership and devotion to duty has been exemplary, and half the things that I said about how you cope with this are direct behaviors I observed him doing with his staff in the Academy and the Corps of Cadets. This notion on mission execution, but patience, having to deal with privations and restrictions on movement, it creates a balance that has to be negotiated in the best interests of the Academy and the country and everybody else. There's nobody I've seen run an institution in this country under the conditions we've been exposed to in the last year better than Bill Kelly has. And if you want a kid to be safe going to college in this country, send them to the Coast Guard Academy.
Thank you, Admiral. So I'll start my introduction. You know, it's kind of hard to follow an introduction like that, sir, but I'm going to do my best. So I know Admiral Kelly is on the line, and I asked him about reading his formal bio, and he said, "Please don't do that, Jim. Personalize it." And so I met Admiral Kelly in 2017 as an auxiliarist who was being interviewed to be on the board of trustees at the Coast Guard Academy. And as he was determining my skill sets, if you will, and by the way, just as a brief aside, when I joined the auxiliary, I never in a million years thought I would ever be on the board of trustees at the Academy. And so there's an example of how robust our various portfolios can be as auxiliaries. But coming back now. So Admiral Kelly put me through the paces. He was president of the board of trustees at the time, and he was the assistant commandant for human resources, CG1. And so we grew to be friends. And during the interview process, I came to learn that we went to competing and rival high schools in New York, in the New York metropolitan area. And despite being rivals, he still accepted me as a board of trustees member, and it's been quite an honor to do that. As a trustee, I learned about the values of the Coast Guard more in depthly, if you will, but I also learned about some of the demands placed on the superintendent, and Admiral Kelly, became the 42nd superintendent of the Coast Guard Academy. So I learned about how the Academy creates leaders of character, but on a more practical, pragmatic factor, the Academy has to produce ensign-ready officers to the tune of about 250 new ensigns every year. That's a feat during normal circumstances. Just imagine what that's like during COVID. And so I've had insights into Admiral Kelly and his incredible faculty and staff on how they have maintained the cadence of still producing ensign-ready officers for the fleet and producing officers of character. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Bill, because I think you want to hear from him more than you want to hear from me. So over. Welcome, Admiral Kelly, and thank you so much for investing your time today.
All right. Good morning, Jim, and Admiral Allen. Thank you for those kind words, sir. I'm glad I had the opportunity to listen in on your remarks, sir. And for the great members of the D11 Auxiliary, I think you're going to hear a very similar theme, but maybe some different words. And Commodore McFarren, thank you, sir, for the privilege to speak with your dedicated volunteers today who make up the D11 Auxiliary. And Jim, it's always good to see you. Folks, just so you know, Jim was on double secret probation based on his high school, but it's been so long in Jim's past. I mean, I think it was maybe a century between the time Jim and I went to schools, rival high school. A century or a couple decades. I get confused on that sometimes, but there was a couple time and distance between the two of us. But good morning again. And so when Jim asked if I would be willing to meet with this morning, I jumped at the opportunity. A little background about myself. So I'm a cutterman by trade, a graduate of this institution back in 1987. And when you grow up in the cutter fleet, especially when I was growing up in it, we didn't have a lot of opportunities to engage with the auxiliary. I do remember one time when we did a pretty neat operation called Unitas, where we deployed with a lot of South American and Central American Coast Guards. We brought along an auxiliary interpreter, and I was the XO, we had a hoot. We had a great time together, but that was really it. And then I had the privilege in 2010 to be the commanding officer at Training Center Cape May. When I got down there, folks would tell me about the great things the auxiliary was doing. And we had a station right there on the campus. And I thought, well, they're over at the station. That's what they're doing. That's what they do. And then I kept popping up and I would see these amazing folks with the auxiliary uniform on, auxiliary patch on their ODUs. And I'd start talking to them and developing friendships with them. And they did everything from, serving breakfast at graduations on Friday, to giving tours, to teaching classes, to working at the station, to working in our hospital that we had our medical clinic there. It was just amazing. And we left with such great respect for the auxiliary that when I had the opportunity to work with Jim on the board of trustees, and then the opportunity to come back here to the Coast Guard Academy and continue to develop those relationships, when Jim offered the opportunity, I couldn't pass it up. So thank you again for the chance to be here with you today. And I think many of us, as we entered into 2021, we had great hope, right? Hope that we would move on from under the cloud of the pandemic, hopeful that the nation could move forward from the challenges of from the election. And you can insert your own joke here about the first 16 days of 2021. But we're still struggling, right? You know this so well, especially our shipmates, on the silver side there over in California. We're struggling as a nation to roll out the vaccine. That continues to impact our families. We're trying to understand and grapple and come to grips with what happened on 6 January in our nation's capital. And as we prepare for the peaceful transition of power later this upcoming week. But I tell you, 16 days into this year, I sit here very, very hopeful at the United States Coast Guard Academy. I remain incredibly hopeful, and I hope I have the opportunity to just share a couple thoughts with you today, and maybe kind of share with you how we're looking at it as we go forward, looking back at what we learned, but looking forward and really building off many of the things that Admiral Allen has already spoken with you today about. Our priorities as we entered into the pandemic, I can vividly remember I was down with our baseball team, our softball team, and our glee club in Florida the week that week in March when this really started to break. And my wife and I looked at each other and we said, we got to go home. We got to get back to the academy. So we got back to the academy on March 12th, and literally sitting around the couch in my office with my team, talking with members from the CDC about what should we do? Should we bring the cadets back from spring break or keep them home to allow them to finish out the semester virtually? And we made a very tough decision at that point in time. But really, we started to coalesce around our mission. What is our focus? And first and foremost, the health and well-being of our entire community, our faculty, our staff, our coaches, our family members, and our cadets. That was priority number one, followed immediately by priority number two, which is our mission, to execute our mission to develop leaders of character for service to our nation. That was our second priority, and we focused intently on that. And I am pretty proud, very proud of what we were able to accomplish. We graduated the largest class ever in 2020. We did that virtually. I tell you, I would put our virtual graduation up against any other virtual graduation in this nation. We did a great job. And when I say we, people came from across the campus and literally around the globe to assist us with that. We sent every single one of our members out to summer training. We were the only service academy in the nation that fully conducted all of the summer training that is so essential to what we do to develop our folks. we engaged and we addressed and we supported our community with the social justice issues that we saw play out in front of us, and we continue to do that as we go forward. We developed procedures in-house to test our cadets, to test everything from sewage. We're literally testing our sewage right now, to testing our cadets on a daily and weekly basis so that we can maintain the safety and sanctity of our community and continue to execute our mission. The Coast Guard has shared with me, some of our senior folks, that not only are we reimagining and remaking science for the Coast Guard Academy, but we're really developing and remaking science for the United States Coast Guard. So I'm very proud of our faculty and staff as we do that. We've repurposed our entire community, our entire 103 acres, so that we could get students into the classroom this fall. And I think we might be the only Division III, or maybe even college across the nation, that allowed every fall sports team to compete on in their athletic endeavors. So every one of our seniors got a chance to compete, whether it was the sailing team, the rifle team, or the football team. Every single one of them competed, and we're working to do the same this winter. And obviously, we continue to build the class of 2025 and beyond. And this is the time when I put the shameless plug out there. Admissions closes on the 29th of January. If you know a great young woman or man who has what it takes to serve in our United States Coast Guard, they still have time to get an application in. If they need any help, you can get with Jim and you can get with me, and we'll make sure we take care of that. So pretty proud of what we're doing. It was an incredible collective team effort. And I know indicative of the team effort that we see across the Coast Guard, and especially out there in D11. And then finally, we focused in on ensuring that we were inclusive and empathetic leaders, no matter the division, the component, the unit. And I got to share with you, these are things that we know, but when we brought more people into the discussion, we brought more people underneath the tent, we got better solutions, we got better answers, and we're able to execute on them much more effectively and efficiently, because everybody understood where we were coming from and where we were going. So as we turn the calendar to 2021, obviously we all have many challenges ahead of us. And we recognize that we're not going to get it right each and every time. But if we can enter that leg of the journey, right, this next leg of our journey with a spirit of hope, buoyed by our service's success, I'm confident that you as a D11 auxiliary, when we gather in 2022, we're going to look back on 2021 and say, quite possibly, it was our best year ever. Now, I hope you all had an opportunity to take a break, over the recent holiday, and however you celebrate and however you were able to get together, and in many respects, probably not get together with family and friends. I think my wife and I got together with 6 total people over the 2 weeks, all family members. But throughout that period, I had the opportunity to take a knee. I had the opportunity to take some long walks and really reflect back on 20 and think about 21 as we go forward as Academy, as we go forward as I go forward as an officer in the United States Coast Guard, and we go forward as a nation. I left each and every one of those walks with the spirit of hope that we've talked a lot about today, and I've already alluded to it this morning. Now, we all know that hope is never a good strategy, right? You don't want to rely on hope. Geez, I hope to get through that. But hope is something that can buoy and lift up the human spirit to really overcome any challenge that we may face, and we've seen that over the past several months. So I thought about the word hope. I thought about how I would communicate that to my community at a recent faculty intercessional period faculty development period that we had. And I broke hope down, HOPE. And I'd like to share that with you this morning. And I hope that it helps you as well. So the H is for healing, the healing that we collectively and individually will need to work through, right? COVID has impacted us all differently. We have to recognize that. I see it play out on our campus, and I'm certain you see it play out on your community. We've been separated from those that we love. We've lost some that we love. Some have worked incredibly long hours, and others have missed the opportunity to fully engage in the vocation that they so enjoy and means so much to them. And our auxiliary flotillas have not been able to do the things that you're normally able to do, to engage fully across the spectrum of things that you're so passionate about and we are so appreciative of. So we'll need a period to heal from the effects of COVID heal from the trauma that many of us have been through, if not all of us have been through at varying levels. And I ask you to think about that as you come back together, as you start to coalesce as flotillas, as divisions, as a district. How are you going to deal with the healing process? On the heels of that is O. O is an opportunity, right? It's for opportunity. And the opportunities ahead are significant. Admiral Allen spoke to some of them today. We've learned so much over the past 9 to 10 months. And I know you're already taking steps to improve how you do business, how you operate, how you function. And as we return to the water this spring, I think you guys get to return to it a little bit earlier than we do up here in Connecticut. It's about 38 degrees and about 20 knots of wind outside right now. But I'd ask that we recognize that we can't and we must not go back to that second week in March. We can't. We've been through too much and we've learned so much. We have to be willing to go forward and think about doing things differently, reimagining and remaking the way we operate. So let's look to leverage the opportunities for growth that will come out of our efforts to work to reimagine and remake your flotilla, your divisions, and the district into a better version of itself. P is for perspective. I've thought about this often over the past year, literally since the start of this. While we've all faced difficult challenges in our personal and professional lives, I'm not sure anything can compare to 2020. Personally, I'm a cancer survivor. And just 2 months ago, I was at my wife's side as we dealt with the loss of her mom. Each of these things have impacted me personally. They're very obviously difficult. I know many of you have been through similar type of experiences, and they've added perspective to my life. But as a community, as an officer in the United States Coast Guard for 37 years, I've developed a newfound appreciation for the resiliency and perseverance of our entire service. I developed a new perspective for our people. So it's been an honor to be part of a service full of professionals so dedicated to their calling that they were able to weather a storm unlike any other, and have volunteers like yourself who stood by us side by side to weather that storm. Collectively, we've accomplished the mission, and we did it together with a sense of community and collaboration. I hope that's the way you feel about your flotilla and your division. I know that's how I feel about our Coast Guard. I hope 2020 influenced our collective perspective on things as we go forward. Hopefully, we'll have garnered a truer understanding of the relative importance of things, and understanding that will ensure we consider multiple viewpoints, and reminds us that if we consider those, kind of dealing with the most challenges, we will probably find a better way forward in the future. I hope we can all kind of just find a time to chuckle and laugh and maybe enjoy an adult beverage with each other too, and just look back with perspective. So I'm confident the expertise and the experiences that we've built over the past 9 months will help us weather whatever the storm is, because we know, as Admiral Allen said, we know there are future storms ahead, and whatever it may be, I am certain we will be better prepared because of the perspective that we've developed over the past 10 months. We are incredibly stronger together. And finally, the E of hope. It's for expectations. Now, as I was working with my staff and kind of bouncing some things around, we talked about excitement. We're excited to get the cadets back, right? We're excited to get back to doing what we're doing. We thought about empathy, right? The empathy we need to continue to infuse into our daily interactions as we lead and serve. And I even threw out the word energy. The energy brought about by the return of, in our case, the Corps of Cadets, and hopefully in your case, the return to your flotilla activities. But in the end, we decided to go with expectations because we all want to manage expectations. And at this point in time, I think it's important that we ensure we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. COVID-19 remains a real threat to our country and to our nation and to our Coast Guard, obviously. The vaccine has arrived. We have the vaccine on campus. We are administering it. But rollout to the entire nation, right, to the entire Coast Guard is still weeks, if not months away. I have the opportunity to watch the evening news and see what we're doing out in the great state of California to try to ramp up the distribution of the COVID vaccine. And I know you folks are living that day in and day out. So there is great hope for 2021, but we must manage our expectations and remain focused on your priorities, whatever those may be. And I'm certain you're discussing those at this conference of leaders, and I hope we can contribute to that. Admiral Allen's comments, I'm certain did, and I hope mine do as well. So my priorities remain for my my individual unit, the health and well-being of our community, preparing the class of 2021, those officers that Jim talked about, for graduation. And then finally, and most importantly, we must continue to lead in an inclusive and equitable manner. It is our greatest key to future success. So I'd offer that staying focused on your priorities will assist you as you navigate through the fog we're all dealing with. And you know all about fog out there. Let's all strive to manage our expectations for what the spring and summer will look like. But let's not back down. Let's not back down from the healing that needs to occur. Let's not back down from capitalizing on the opportunities that have and will present themselves. And let us never forget the lessons we learned from the past 9 or 10 months, the perspective it can provide as we move forward. And allow appropriate time with your flotillas, with your groups, with your units, with the people you work with, the people you live with, to reflect on those. We need to take time. We need to take time to reflect on what we've been all through. And I ask that we manage our expectations, continue to press ahead and look for openings to press forward, right? It's okay to put the throttles down a little bit when it's appropriate, picking up speed on your track line. The waters ahead are going to lay down. We know that. When they lay down, probably different for each and every one of us. But don't be shy about pushing down on the throttles. Coasties are amazingly resilient. They can accomplish things that many others can't. On the silver side and the gold side, we will do this together. And I again encourage you to look for those opportunities. Encourage you to think about the 4 elements of hope. So I'm looking forward with great hope to 2021 and what it will provide to us. The things I shared with you are things I shared with my community. I continue to tell anyone that will listen that I have the best job in the United States Coast Guard. I do. And it's because I get the opportunity to deal with great folks like you. But here on board the campus, I am surrounded by an amazing group of dedicated professionals. And we are blessed with the opportunity to work with great young women and men who want to dedicate their lives to something bigger than themselves. So thank you for all that you've done. Thank you for all that you are doing. And thank you for all that you're going to do. You inspire me. You give me hope. And I know we will be able to progress forward. So Jim, thank you for the opportunity. Commodore McFarren, thank you for the opportunity to join you today. I hope my words helped, and I remain committed to assisting our auxiliary wherever and whenever I can. And I look forward to the day when we can all be back together again. So thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. And oh, Jim, one thing.
What's that, sir?
We never finish up something around here without saying Semper Paratus and forever, go Bears.
Go Bears. Thank you, sir. Hey, so I'm having to do a lot of multitasking here, Admiral Allen and Admiral Kelly. So I've been getting deluged with texts and emails from members who are listening today. And so both of you, Admiral Allen and Admiral Kelly, your words have resonated so much with members. And you know, I could allow myself to get a little bit emotional, and I think, you know, that I'm a little bit sentimental, but I'm kind of blown away with how they're reacting to both of you. Both of you are a gift to us today, and so I am so incredibly appreciative. Thank you so much. If I may put you on the spot, Admiral Kelly, in our conversation, our private conversation of the other day, you were talking about different ways you would like to get the auxiliary involved with what happens at the Coast Guard Academy. Would you mind sharing that part of that conversation?
Yeah, I think, Admiral Allen talked about the special talents and abilities that each and every auxiliarist brings to the table. And I think I have an obligation as a leader to open the aperture for my faculty and staff with regards to where the auxiliary can help us. And I was just reflecting on it this morning as I was preparing for today. You know, we have auxiliary doctors who assist us in our clinic here. We have one auxiliarist who's teaching in our math department, a former professor that's assisting us there. We are proud to be home with the Coast Guard Band, and our auxiliary helps out in so many ways when we're able to do concerts on campus. We have a 1,200 seat beautiful auditorium. We fill it to the rim when the band shares their talents with the local community. But I think we have greater opportunities, Jim. I have the privilege. I'd love to walk the computer around, and I'm in my home right now, quarters 1, which is a representational facility. And we, in normal times, we host about 70 to 80 events a year. But it just kind of struck me as we worked through COVID that we don't have any of the auxiliary chefs assisting us. We're going to open the aperture on that. And I have a responsibility to work with my staff to just start looking at different chances, different opportunities, different pathways for bringing more auxiliaries into our community. Because once we found, you are like the broader Coast Guard, right? Once you get a little auxiliary, you'll want a lot more. And that's so we're getting a little auxiliary. I want to get a lot more because I know from my time at Cape May and elsewhere in the Coast Guard just what a force multiplier our dedicated professionals, our dedicated volunteers, and the Coast Guard Auxiliary can be to a unit. And what a great way to introduce our future officer corps to just what the auxiliary is.
Exactly. So as you were talking about different ways you'd like to get members, I've had 2 food service members who are on the line volunteer to come out to the academy to cook. So at any rate, thank you so much. I can't tell you how much of a gift this is for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. So I appreciate the opportunity to join you.
Absolutely.
Take care, everybody.
All right. Thank you, sir. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our Commodore, Commodore McFarren. And, you know, I've gotten to know Dean pretty well. And I asked him the other day if he would send me a bio. And he goes, no, I don't want to send you a bio because I'm a low-key person and so forth. And so please don't read a bio about me. So I'm going to respect his wishes, but I would like to say a couple of things about Commodore McFarren. There's all these qualities that go into making a great leader, and I'm going to personalize this. One of which is character and empathy. So Dean has had a very successful career at Pacific Gas and Electric here in California. And he's also former active duty where he flew helicopters, rotary wing. But earlier in the year, in 2020, June 2nd to be precise, I had a very serious operation that took me off the operations line for about 90 days. And so Dean, Commodore McFarren, in his role as DCOS for District 11, had a pretty robust job doing that. Well, he took on my responsibilities for those 90 days in addition to his own. And so I remained especially appreciative of that. And I don't forget that. Loyalty counts in a big way, but that also talks to the type of person and the type of character that our Commodore has. And I am so respectful of that. And I thank him for that. He also is the type of person who allows us to take some risks. So in designing today's program where we have Admiral Allen and Admiral Kelly, he was all for, you know what, Jim, go and get your team and do something that's a little bit outside the box, but still maintains the validity of the mission that we're trying to accomplish with the PCA fair. And so we did, and we designed it this way. We were very fortunate, very lucky to have both admirals invest their time with us. But now it's time to turn this over to Commodore McFarren, where he's going to share with us the vision for District 11 for 2021. So Commodore McFarren, I'd like to turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jim. Really, really appreciate it. And you got me blushing over here, by the way. Working with the auxiliary, I really haven't been in the auxiliary all that long, a little over 10 years. And it's been a very learning environment for me. And it's been, I think, a very great opportunity to work with people with similar aspirations, similar goals, and similar feelings about the Coast Guard and about our country. So I'm very, very honored to work with a bunch of very, very strong professionals. I'd like to thank Admiral Allen and Admiral Kelly for taking time out of their busy schedules and spending the morning with us in District 11 North. and sharing their thoughts on leadership and hope during this challenging time. I was taking notes during this entire time here, and Admiral Kelly, when you broke down hope into healing, opportunity, perspective, and expectations, that really struck a chord with me. And believe me, I will be using that. So I'm just letting you know in advance, sir, that I will be plagiarizing. There's so much, both of you admirals said so much. I really couldn't write fast enough, but thank goodness we've got this recorded so I can go back. So with that, I'd like to say welcome to all, and thank you for attending our first PCA Fair of 2021 and our first virtual PCA Fair ever. This has definitely been a learning experience. 2020 has been a learning experience. Let's see, Admirals, your insight and wisdom definitely have made an impression on us, as Jim has said, and will definitely give us something to think about with a vision of hope as we continue to reach a place when COVID-19 cases start to fall and the vaccine is readily available to ourselves, our families, our shipmates, and our friends. Well, as we started out, we've been saying this year has definitely been one for the ages. We started off in 2020 very well, holding our January PCA Fair in person on Coast Guard Island, normally a 2-day event. We started our preparations for our D train in March, and also started preparations for National Safe Boating Week in May. Then the big C hit. The COVID-19 pandemic changed our lives forever. We were all, for intents and purposes, shut down completely in March. Not being able to perform the role that we all signed on for. We're sheltered in place. I think many of us became very familiar with our couches and home projects. I know I did. Some of you have heard this before, but I'm going to say it again, because I'm kind of proud of it. Let's see, I have a progress report to share. I set a goal to lose 10 pounds during the shelter in place, and I'm happy to report I have only 16 pounds to go. So definitely making progress there. In all seriousness though, even though we are currently in a situation that's beyond our control and has caused uncertainty with fulfilling our mission, I'm happy to see this event has not broken the positive spirit, the camaraderie and friendship that we have for each other. Seeing everyone here, albeit virtually, is a testament that Team Coast Guard is alive and well and truly is a family. Even though our pandemic reduced our opportunities in 2020, doesn't mean that districts sat around our couches all year. When it looked like we were going to be shut down for the long haul, District 11 North immediately purchased 3 additional GoToMeeting licenses so we could all continue to hold meetings, have discussions, and meet for fellowship events. Our 2020 DCO, Commodore Kirkwood, along with our DCO MT Anzaki, started planning a virtual training calendar to keep our members engaged and enlightened, hosting a wide variety of classes over 9 months. Over 40 virtual training sessions were held in 2020, reaching an estimated 650 plus auxiliarists, which accounted for the majority of our over 13,500 online training hours that were logged. To me, that's pretty darn amazing. And speaking of hours, I'm going to make this brief. District 11 North logged over 77,900 volunteer hours in 2020. This included 65,800 Mission 99 hours, mostly administrative and learning, and included those over 13,500 training support hours. And even during our shutdown and reduced opportunity for duty, we still found ways to perform missions that directly assisted or augmented the Coast Guard. We were able to log over 1,800 hours of radio watch operation support, watch standing and such. We logged over almost 1,100 direct Coast Guard operation support hours on the water and in the air. And even down to the point of where we offered over 228 hours of legal support. Thank you, Joanna Nevesny. Appreciate that. In direct support of the Coast Guard's legal group over at Coast Guard Island. So where am I going with this? We still found ways to make sure that we remained relevant even during the time of shutdown. Yes, the numbers are lower than normal. However, they showed that our membership is still engaged and contributing. I want to thank all of our members for contributing their valuable time in 2020. So there's the plug. Okay, so if you haven't turned in your time reports yet, please do so. Every hour we contribute helps our cause and the Coast Guard mission. We're in our third month of implementing phase 2 of the D11 reconstitution plan, which allows us to perform many of our duties, albeit with appropriate safety protocols, as we did before the outbreak. We formed 8 COVID bubbles, 7 afloat and 1 in the air, and have received over 188 requests for assignment since starting phase 1 back in Q3. This is a great opportunity for us to resume work, and I'm very, very happy that we are. We do, however, need to remember that we must respect and adhere to the safety guidelines set by the Coast Guard and by the state. If we don't, we can be shut down very quickly. Not trying to frighten anyone, but just remind everyone that this pandemic is still real and very, very present. Additionally, we must respect the decisions of all of our members when thinking about returning to duty right now. Not everyone will be comfortable returning to work or leaving their homes. So it's our responsibility as leaders and members to think safety first and maybe suggest alternative roles that our members can perform without leaving their homes. There's a lot to do out there, and a lot of this can be done virtually. As I was said earlier, we're changing our norm. We're not going to be able to go back to where we were before. And so we have to embrace the future, embrace technology, and think about how we can leverage this to make us more relevant. As mentioned, we have the ongoing training calendar that offers many training opportunities. And we are asking each of our DSOs to prepare and give a presentation on their programs in an effort to excite our members and engage them in activities that they may not have thought of before. Hopefully, we can resume all of our activities as soon as possible, but we're playing the long game here. So let's think about not just in the next 6 months, not the next year, but maybe 5 years out. So as we continue into 2021, I expect this will be our new norm for possibly at least the first half of the year. I urge you to have hope, not let it deter you from thinking about the auxiliary and your desire to serve. In preparation for assuming office as DCO, I reviewed our National Commodore's vision and the goals for the auxiliary and believe our current vision is still very, very relevant and very, very current. The national vision, of course, is the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, the best trained, most valued maritime volunteer organization in the world, highly effective during normal operations and ready for emergencies. Our D11 North vision dovetails into that very, very perfectly. And that reads, to support and achieve the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary national vision by becoming a valued and respected entity to our partner agencies and keeping our board from public faith safe. To go along with our vision, we reviewed our mission statement and revised it to be more relevant in today's environment. Reads, District 11 North stands ready to create and instill a culture of safety in all programs and activities performed by our members. Ensure our members are fully trained, remain competent and confident and relevant in their skills and knowledge as we improve recreational boating safety. Support the strategic goals of the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary and the U.S. Coast Guard. Integrate with the U.S. Coast Guard active duty personnel to be a true force multiplier. And provide a welcoming and inclusive environment, allowing all members to reach their full potential as auxiliarists. These 5 statements describe what we should be striving for as members of D11 North and instilling this credo in each of our shipmates. In order to fulfill our mission objectives, we've developed 13 programmatic goals that roll up under the 3 guiding principles and priorities provided in the Auxiliary National Strategic Plan for 2020 through 26. No, I'm not going to read them all, but several of these goals really stand out as they present or represent relevant and real-time needs of our district. First, develop new tools for flotillas to use in their recruiting and retention programs. Recruiting and retention, even though we were able to recruit over 45 new members during the COVID shutdown last year, we still have a lot of work to do. We were down 3.3% in overall membership last year. Given the situation, I look at that as a win, but we still have an opportunity to grow. So we reviewed our district strategy and our ongoing recruitment and retention training, and we're going to be providing tools for the deck plate to use to make it successful in their everyday interactions with the public. Identify and provide leadership development resources, tools, and training. We're going to continue our virtual training calendar and include a wider variety of training options helping members reach their potential. We're going to keep at least 3 of our 4 GoToMeeting links through at least this year and probably going forward to give people the opportunity to reach out, to form new friendships, and to work with their flotillas, divisions, and just teams to make sure that we are successful and use this technology to leverage the resources within and future to help us meet our goals. Meet human capital needs for the Coast Guard and the auxiliary. Our District 11 commander, Rear Admiral Penoyer, sent us a request for forces here in late December. And it identified gaps at different Coast Guard bases and stations where they're asking us to provide additional personnel and services when we can. Right now, we've got our sector coordinators and unit coordinators corresponding with their liaisons on the active duty side and figuring out exactly what they're looking for, figuring out what we can do to place the right people in those positions and what additional services that we can provide to them to augment their needs and also make them more mission ready and successful. And lastly, and this is probably the most important mission or goal that we have, and that is to embrace and enhance safety culture district-wide. We need to adopt a safety-first culture that changes how we view and think about safety from a holistic standpoint. We need to change the way from looking at safety as an afterthought or something we have to do as part of risk management to the first thing we think of in the morning to the last thing we think of before retiring at night. This is going to be a journey, but it's one that we definitely need to take. Now you can imagine if we've got 13 strategic goals, we've got many, many tasks that we need to complete to meet them. And the answer is yes, we do. We do have quite a few tasks, but what makes these tasks relevant is that everyone on this call can play a role in helping us move forward. There's something there for everyone. Will we meet these goals in the next 2 years? Well, I'd like to think so. However, I'm somewhat of a pragmatic and designed a few of these to be stretch goals where we will learn as we strive to meet them. So the goals may be changing as we move forward in the future. So if you haven't done so already, I encourage everyone to visit the Commodore's page on our district website and become familiar with the 2021 and 22 District 11 North Operations Plan. For your division and flotilla commanders, you should read the plan prior to designing your goals for 2021. Look for ways to align your local goals to the district and the nation. You know, I've had a few questions from our members over the past few months when forming our 2021 district staff, asking, what type of leader are you? And what do you believe in? Well, my philosophy is pretty simple, and I think Jim alluded to it pretty well. You know, I'm here for you. That's it. I believe I prescribe to the one team approach that centers on one auxiliary, that utilizes the strengths of all members, all flotillas, to achieve the common goal. We are stronger as a unit than we are individually. I believe that leadership is based on trust, respect, integrity, and credibility. That our leaders in D11 North should always be open and honest, be approachable, and be available to our members, and listen with respect and empathy. I believe that our membership should be enabled through learning and practical application of knowledge and skills gained through Coast Guard, auxiliary training, and life experience, then empowered. Giving members authority without knowledge sets us up for long-term failure. I believe strongly in the concept of teamwork and inclusion. There's a spot in the Coast Guard Auxiliary for everyone. And that continual three-way communication, up, down, and across, is essential to ensure that everyone understands the mission and has the knowledge and skills they need to get the job done safely, efficiently, and effectively. Where does this all lead? Ultimately, I believe in Admiral Papp's vision of servant leadership, and that we as leaders of volunteers, we serve those who serve. So I've distilled my entire leadership style down into 3 watchwords: commitment, teamwork, and versatility. Commitment is that we are dedicated to the success of the Coast Guard Auxiliary, implementing the strategic directives as defined by the Commandant and National Commodore to the best of our abilities. Teamwork, that we work together to ensure the missions we complete are performed at the highest level of safety, competency, and inclusion. And versatility, that we're agile, flexible, and able to adapt to changes to ensure success in all the missions we undertake. So as we move deeper into 2021, it's up to you as leaders of people and leaders of self to take this message to our members, affirming that we are all in this together and we will support each other to ensure that we're successful. This year is a year of hope. Hope that we, our family, and our shipmates all stay safe. Hope that our economy turns around, and hope that we can return to working for our Coast Guard and our country. It's going to take some time, but we can hope that this time comes soon. Something that keeps me going is a quote by the poet Barbara Kingsolver. I actually have this quote right above my desk here. And it says, "Hope is a renewable option. If you run out of it at the end of the day, you get to start over in the morning." I think that's pretty true. Well, Jim, I think I've used up my time, so I'm going to close. So thank you again to the entire PCA team for putting this together. This is truly a unique experience, and I'm really, really hoping that we can meet in person in September for our second PCA fair. Admirals Allen and Kelly, again, many, many thanks for being leaders in the Coast Guard and helping shape our service into what it is today. And a special thanks to everyone for attending today's PCA fair. Jim, back to you.
Thank you, Commodore McFarren. So in designing the program for the morning, we were hoping to have members be inspired and motivated and touched by your remarks. And I've stopped counting after 50. So there must be 60 plus texts and emails that I've received from members where the leadership messages from Admiral Allen, Admiral Kelly, Commodore McFarren have resonated with them. So mission accomplished. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all of you. So as we conclude our morning's program, I want to thank the PCA team with special Bravo Zulu to Michelle Thompson, Ann Zaki, who has been absolutely instrumental, and of course, Bryce Linen, who helped put on and manage all of the IT aspects for this morning. So we have a rather robust training schedule starting at 10:15 this morning. And so we have 15 plus instructors and presenters. So please pick the appropriate ones that you want to participate in. And please continue to drive the feedback, and we'll lean into our ever improving this. I would echo Commodore McFarren's words, I hope we never have to do another virtual PCA fair, trust me. And I would love to be able to do our next one for the fall. So let's hope for the best, and we'll continue to bring to you programs. And again, they're still coming in. All that pinging in the background are text messages from folks who are so appreciative of our leadership speakers this morning. So without further ado, thank you all for attending. I know it's a Saturday and you're investing your time, but that's what auxiliarists do. And signing out, over.